So trauma itself is not the event. The trauma that we're focusing on and the stuff in terms of transgenerational trauma that's passed down is really the response to the event. And this is the psychological or the emotional injury after living through an extremely frightening or distressing event. And thereafter, we notice changes in the way that we begin to function and we begin to respond and engage with others. But a key aspect is in terms of trauma is that the experience shatters the assumptions of safety and trust. And this is really important because when we think about transgenerational trauma, we'll see how it is transferred across to future generations. So a trauma experience shifts the way that we see the world, ourselves, and others. Our belief in our sense, our own vulnerability, our own capabilities are shattered. Our view of the world as safe, meaningful, an orderly place, trauma shatters that. And also our belief that human beings are kind or trustworthy, right? So these elements, core elements of how we function in the world is then shattered, and we shift to experience a sense of disorientation, confusion and fear, and a sense of distrust in the world, ourselves, and others. So this is manifested in trauma responses. And so often with the individuals that came in, this is what we would see. We'd see a sense of hypervigilance, in that survival mode, always on guard. The presentation was fearful. There's a sense of anxiety around being prepared for something bad that might happen. This kind of view of suspicion around others in the world, nothing's fair, and just not daring to trust again. We also note symptoms of avoidance around thoughts, feelings, activities, and places that would remind someone of their trauma. And through this, attempting to silence the trauma narrative and in turn numb themselves and the experience. We'd often get, I just want to forget, I want to erase, and I don't want to engage with any of it. Like, can it just not be there? And what we found then, the trauma would find another way. So when we shut down our regulation systems, our processing systems on a cognitive and an emotional level, we found that the trauma would find its way to express itself and to say, something's not okay and we need to make sense of it. And so individuals would present with psychosomatic pain that is not related to any medical reason, but is more bound to a psychological pain source. And that is the trauma that is unprocessed. And then intrusive thoughts as well, such as the mind trying to process the event. And when individuals are triggered by something that brings about a trauma memory, there could be flashbacks, nightmares experience, and this disorientation in time and space. As the memories take the individual back to the moment of the trauma, they feel like they're back there again, and in turn will respond with levels of fear and anxiety, and even a panic response that sits within the body. Other symptoms that we noted was isolation and withdrawal, really a disruption in the regulation system, managing emotions, a stuckness, a loss, depression and anxiety, and also feelings of shame and guilt, survivor guilt in particular.